Hello and welcome. My name is Amanda, and today I have for you my September wrap up. For the month of September, I listened to actually, I think about an even amount of audiobooks versus physical books. So, the first audiobook that I listened to was Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. I have had this physical copy on my shelf for so many years, and it's always intimidated me. I've tried picking it up before, but the French words were just got like stuck in my brain when I was reading, so I was just tripping over them too much to where I couldn't really enjoy the story, and I only got a couple chapters in. So I decided to find an audiobook version, which I did on Audible, and the one that I listened to was 67 hours and 43 minutes or 34 minutes. I don't remember who it was narrated by, but it was a really good reading of this story. So obviously, because this was translated from French, the different like published copies have slightly different translations. So I couldn't exactly follow along with the audiobook and the physical book at the same time, just because the phrasing and sentences and word choice were different. But overall, it was really nice to be able to kind of move my bookmark along as I was listening to the audiobook and just kind of see my progress that way. Look at the names and how they were written to kind of commit them to memory a little better. So I really enjoyed this book. I almost wish I would have listened or read it sooner, but then I don't think I would have appreciated it as much either had I at a younger age. This is a book that Maddie picked out for me. He is my 7-year-old, and I think he picked it just because it was so big. And also there's a picture of Cosette on the cover or on the spine, so I think he picked it just because it was an interesting spine. So for those of you that don't know, this is a story that follows a man who is a convict. His name is Jean Valjean, and he meets people along the way kind of on his path towards wanting to be a good man. This is going to get a little spoilery, so I'm sorry for that. Actually, no, it's not. I'm going to go away from that. So basically, overall rating I gave this was 4 stars. I loved the character development in this. I loved the relationships. I thought they were very real and very relatable as well. The atmosphere was really good. It was mostly set in Paris, somewhat on the outskirts of Paris, in an abbey at one point, but you just got a really good sense of feeling of when this story took place and kind of the environments and atmospheres that the people were in. The plot did lose me a couple of times. I really liked the chapters and the sections that followed Jean Valjean and Cosette and Marius. But when it got into the history and the revolution, it just kind of bogged me down a little bit. And I didn't really understand how it was related until the end. But yeah, it was a very intriguing story for as long as it was, and for being a classic, I thought it was really well written. I think it's still applicable for the times. So this is a good book, a really good classic that I'm glad to finally have under my belt. So the next audiobook that I finished was The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. I started reading this book last month and only got to page like 66, I want to say. And just knew that because I had such a heavy big book TBR for September that I really wasn't going to be able to finish it, but I didn't want the story to sit for too long to where I would have to start completely over. So I did end up getting a copy of this from my library on audiobook, and I listened to it through there. The amount of time that I listened for was 10 hours and 24 minutes, and I ended up giving this book a 3-star rating. I thought it was pretty decent, but if I'm completely honest, I really didn't like our main character. I understand that she was going through a really hard time and trying to piece everything together, but she was just a brat. And for people that are trying to help you, it wasn't okay. Um, I didn't really like her relationships with people, which is a big factor that I take into place when I rate books. Um, Other than that, though, this is a magical realism book. It centers around depression and kind of grief and figuring out why a person would commit suicide and just kind of the stages you go through of, if I had done this, would this have happened? So I think for that, it was a really good book just to kind of talk about the subject and just kind of give an explanation of, not everybody's depression is the same. Not everybody's mental health state is the same. You can try to be as present as you possibly can, but in the end, it's not because of you, and it's not your fault if they choose to end their lives. So this was it. It definitely did bring about talking about such a delicate subject in a really good way. So I think if you're interested in kind of learning more about depression and suicide and other mental health related issues, this would be a good book to read. I just kind of wish we had a different main character because, like I said, she wasn't a very nice person. I mean, she was, but I don't know. I just didn't really like her as much. But if you like magical realism, this definitely has that. It's beautifully written. I'm really excited because this is Emily X. Arpan's debut novel. I think it came out in March. So her potential is just going to be so good. And I am really looking forward to future books that she writes. So I will definitely be checking those out. And the last audiobook that I listened to was Annihilation. I only decided to get this book on audiobook. I got it through my library again because Skylar picked up the movie that just came out, and if there's a movie that's based off a book, I'm that person who has to read the book. I really don't even know what happened in this book. I hope the movie is a lot better because if not, I don't think I'll be able to sit through it. The book was only 6 hours and I gave it a 2-star rating. I don't know what happened. I mean, I do, but it jumps right into the story, which can be okay, but then, and I guess it's supposed to be, it's like a sci-fi kind of dystopian mix, mostly sci-fi though. And basically, I think there's this section of the world that is like changing and expanding to encompass more of the surrounding area. It's been kept under wraps pretty tightly, so not a lot of people know it exists, and the only people that go in and explore are people who volunteer. And when you come back, you don't come back the same. A lot of people have come back. Some people have passed away while in there. There's creepy, like, alien-y, monster-y things. Yeah, I don't know. I know there's more books. I think there's 3 books, and I'm not planning to continue this series at all. I'll see how I like the movie and maybe continue via that platform, but not really a book that I would recommend. So for total hours read, I listened to 83 hours and 58 minutes worth of audiobooks, which, I mean, a huge chunk of that was just Les Miserables. It basically took me the whole month to listen to. So now into physical books. The first book I read was Peter Potts. This is a book, it's a middle grade book that Skylar picked out for me. It was one of his favorite middle grade books when he was younger. It was actually his mom's copy, so you had to be really delicate with this. It was cute, just kind of little stories about this kid and his best friend and the shenanigans they get into. So it was sweet. I gave it a 3-star rating just because it was kind of middle of the road for me. And it was 105 pages. The other middle grade book that I read was The 18th Emergency, and this is about a kid who makes a mistake and has to face the school bully, and he's really scared, and he goes through all these emergency situations and how you're supposed to react. It was, I think, 126 pages, and I also gave it a 3-star read. It was really cute. Again, another one of Skylar's favorite middle grade books. And then the last pick from Skylar that I got to was Animal Farm by George Orwell. This copy is 139 pages, and I gave it a 4-star rating. It's another classic that I almost wish I had gotten to sooner, but if I had, I don't know if I would have appreciated it as much. It was just a really intriguing story. It's told from the points of views of animals at a farm, and basically how they form a government system and take over. It's a representation of I think around World War II, and it's supposed to be like two world leaders at the time, and kind of depicting how they did what they did, kind of. I would have gotten a lot better background had I read this in school, but just reading it as a story, I thought it was really good. So again, like, the references aren't super fresh in my mind, but I did like it enough to give it a 4-star rating. And this is, again, one of Skylar's favorites. I think this month was just basically reading all of Skylar's favorite books, which aren't that many because that boy does not read. But another book that is sitting on my coffee table, so I will insert picture here, that I read partially was Dragonfly and Amber. This was the book that I was buddy reading with Ashley from Bookish Realm. I got 146 pages in, which wasn't even our first stopping point. I don't know what it is about those books, but they take me so long to get through. So we agreed to kind of extend it into the month of October as well, and just kind of read and catch up when we get to points. We're not going to be super strict on it anymore. So far I'm liking it though. I think it's really interesting. I am doing had to make sure I didn't just smudge my lipstick. I'm doing like a book diary on it, so kind of as I read sections and read pages and things pop into my mind, I'm recording that. So I think that's going to be something new that I do on this channel, is just having like a book chat or book, basically just following my journey of reading a book and going more in depth in it than I normally do. So that's what I'm doing with that book. I don't have a rating for it, obviously, because I didn't finish it. But my total pages read for this month was 516, and my average star rating for the 6 books that I finished was 3.2 stars. So that is it for this wrap up. I would love to know what your favorite read for the month was. Mine was definitely Les Miserables. Let me know down below what you really enjoyed reading this month, maybe some favorite classics. I would love to read some more classics, and whatever else you want to say down in the comments below, and I will chat with you there until my next video. Bye!